Have you ever felt like your business was running you instead of you running your business? Late night client calls, endless emails, and no time for yourself. In fact, you may even be feeling frustrated right now and overwhelmed. So, if you're saying yes and you're running on empty and feeling overwhelmed, it's time to set boundaries before you burn out. In this video, my goal is to help give you practical, game changing strategies to protect your time, energy, and sanity without losing clients or money. Hi, my name is Jessie. On Greeneyedambition, we talk about all of the unsexy things around running an event industry business. I have over 15 years of experience, and let's dig into the conversation for today. Let's be honest, there are consequences to not setting boundaries. I realized this earlier in my journey as an entrepreneur when I really always felt myself in a place of feeling anxious each and every day. It did not matter if I had an event going on or not. And when I realized, like, if I can't handle my current workload, how can I actually handle the workload in which I need for my business to have the success that I wanted? When I realized that, I knew that I had to make a change because I did not want to burn out. And you may be wondering to yourself, what does burnout look like? It can differ from person to person. Some, it can be for some, it can be constant exhaustion, the irritability with clients and team members. You find yourself having a lack of creativity and motivation. And most importantly, you may be finding yourself struggling with work-life balance. In fact, you may have just laughed because you don't know what work-life balance and you thought that that was a joke. I've been there, and trust me, it is not sustainable long term. So let's talk about how to fix it so that you can truly enjoy running your business. Now that we know what burnout can look like, and you may be experiencing it, I want to give you some actionable steps to set healthy boundaries. I know that there's this saying that you always have to be available to clients, and people feel like they need to do that. So if you say no, or if you set boundaries, you may lose out on clients. I used to feel that way years and years and years ago, but I realized that in order for me to serve the people in which I want to serve, I had to set boundaries so that I was able to recharge and not always feel on the edge. So the first thing you want to do when it comes to setting boundaries is having defined work hours. About 10 years ago, I was working back in corporate America because things had got a little bit rough inside of my business because I did not have boundaries and I had made some mistakes. So when I went back into corporate America, I was like, how can I do this when my clients are still reaching out to me, but I need to be working a full-time job to be able to get by financially? So what I did was I actually had to set out office hours, and that was even utilizing out of office notifications or auto responses. The first thing I recommend is for you to decide when you're available for client calls and emails. And most importantly, you want to stick to it. So here's a pro tip for you. You can have an autoresponder on your emails that can say, thank you for reaching out. My office hours are blank to blank. I'll respond within this time frame. Ultimately, the goal is to give a realistic time frame, and what you do is try to always surpass that. So I say that you'll hear from me within 32 hours, and what I often try to do is respond back within 12 hours. So if I am busy with events, then I'm not having to stop what I'm doing to respond back to an email. I was nervous about doing this in the beginning. However, I found that people actually respected it. Granted, in fairness, I work in the corporate event space, so people do respect that because they have it themselves. You may be working with private clients, and they may not necessarily always want to adhere to it, but I do think you can have specific guidelines to that, because if you always are making yourself accessible, nothing's wrong with that unless I would say you need to have a price tag to match that level of accessibility. We are not allowing everyone to have access to us unless they're paying us some major, major money. And I'm not talking about a couple hundred, I'm talking about several thousands and thousands, because I would not want it to be that someone can just have access to my schedule and they just pay me $600. I just wouldn't want that. The way that you can, so when it comes to defining your work hours, you can use platforms like Calendly so that when people want to schedule times to talk to you, you can designate which days and times that people can schedule times with you, as well as in Honeybook. They have a feature that's very similar, which is part of their scheduler, so that it allows for people to easily see when you're available to talk and come to your location or video call or whatever is going to be that mode of communication. The second thing about setting boundaries is to say no without feeling guilty. No is a complete sentence, but if you need help, try this. Whenever I have said yes to something that I knew I should have said no, I either regret saying yes. Well, almost always I regret saying yes because there was something inside of me that said no. Or if I do say yes, I end up finding myself working for things I did not get paid for. So I do try to adhere to the boundaries in which I set because I never feel amazing for violating my boundaries. In fact, I always feel frustrated. So when you know at your core that you should be saying no to something, you can be polite and firm with your response. For example, you can say, I would love to help, but my schedule is full. Let me find another option. Or you can, if you know that you are not available for a booking, but you have a partner relationship with someone else, I would say, I would love to say yes. And however, I am not available, but I have someone I want to recommend. This is perfect compared to you overstuffing your calendar, knowing good and well that you're giving yourself small windows that can potentially cause a breakdown in your service and what people expect from you. The third thing you want to do when setting boundaries is to set clear communication expectations. I do recommend, again, to not be on call 24/7. Even if you are single and you have no partner and you're like, I just have nothing but free time. Because we know for those of us that do have partners, children, and other responsibilities, that is just not a realistic expectation in general. But you may be feeling uncertain about allowing people to reach out to you for 24/7. Here's the thing that I always recommend is just create a response time period. And the best thing about it is to communicate that to your client. The biggest reason why there is some pushback is because we're not clear in communicating what our office hours are or what would be a realistic turnaround time for people to hear from you. Most people will respect your boundaries if you communicate them, but if you do not take the time to communicate it, it's going to be hard for someone to respect it. Once you do communicate that, one thing I recommend for you to do is to use a platform that has some type of project management capabilities so that it will allow for you to keep things organized. And that's sometimes why we are not able to respond back in a clear time frame is because we don't have ourselves organized. So for you to stay organized, I recommend for you to use something to help with project management. I personally talk about Asana. I use Asana. I did try ClickUp. There's to me, it's not about the platform, it's about the consistency when it comes to it. So I recommend you to use that. The fourth thing you want to do is also protect your personal time. This is important where you have to stop working. That does not mean, and it's not for me to tell you what is going to be the best time for you. You have to know what are the boundaries you're wanting to set. For some people, they may say, I'm not going to check emails after 7 o'clock, or your office hours are between X time and this time. And so you need to be able to set personal time because if you're going, and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling anxious, why, if you're not making your personal time a priority as well, or things that help with refilling your cup a priority, then that is going to perpetuate the feeling that you have. For me, I have times that are marked off on my calendar that are for church and personal things because if I am always going, I am big on making sure that I have enough to give to people. And if I don't give anything to myself, I never will have enough to give to others. So I recommend for you to do is block time for yourself, just like you do clients, and make it non-negotiable. If I have something on Mondays, which I do, which is a non-negotiable, which is a Bible study for me, I will not take a call on that day at that time. So you set whatever it is for you and make it a non-negotiable. And one of the things I recommend to make sure that you adhere to it is to mark it off on your calendar so that people don't take those times. I'm currently babysitting my little cousins. So I know that after 3 o'clock, I can't guarantee that I can do much of anything because of their age ranges. So I block off on my schedule personal time or family time so that people cannot schedule anything with me after 3 o'clock. It's better to do that than feel upset or frustrated because I'm unable to do the things that I think I could do when in reality I won't be able to. The fifth thing that I recommend for you is to ultimately train your clients and your teams. I recommend doing this, and that is ultimately comes down to having clear communication and expectations upfront with your clients. If you do not communicate that, if you have someone that's texting you at 12 p.m. and you're upset, chances are you didn't communicate that, or you may have ignored a red flag on that person not being a good client if they continue to break it. So, one of the things that I do recommend is to use a FAQs when someone is signing on to work with you, where it can be a welcome packet or just a one pager that is going to your clients that is communicating what are the expectations that they can expect from you on communication. Your office hours, the best way to communicate. In fact, I had someone that I worked with on HoneyBook that they actually had a template that they would send out to people that did communicate outside of what was acceptable. And they would just nicely say, just wanted to let you know you did communicate through this method. Here are the best ways to reach out to us, and here's how you can correct it. That might make you a little cringe. However, this person has to have clear expectations communicated to their clients so that they don't lose things or things don't get lost or misunderstood. So this is why you want to do that. So for example, you may be wondering, how do you go about doing that? Just like I said, use a template or something that's going to help with politely, keyword politely, because when we think if we communicate boundaries that people will receive it in the bad way, the only time that happens is if we don't take the time to communicate it nicely to the person that we're wanting to communicate it to. So just be reassured that boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They help you serve they help you with serving your clients better without burning you out so you can do what you're doing longer and more fulfilled. So I'm curious, which boundary do you struggle with the most? And drop it in the comments and let's talk. Until the next video, talk to you later. Peace.